So.
All right, so my name is Julie Michaels. I am a partner with Eker at Moss Studio and part of Moss Context as well. And with Eker, we've lived in the building for just over 20 years now.
Yeah.
So I'll be helping to give the tour today. He'll be giving the bulk of it, but I will be assisting.
So my name is Iker Gil. I'm one of the three partners that we have in the office called Moss Studio. I'm the I'm the founder of Moss Context, which is a nonprofit organization here in Chicago, and then I'm the executive director of the SOM Foundation. We've lived in the building for 20 years. That's when I moved to Chicago, and I always say, like, when I moved to Chicago, this is the only place I want to live in, and so far so good.
Being from Chicago, I always knew these buildings, and I never thought I could actually live here. So he, surprisingly not being from here, was the one who helped.
Yeah, my accent is not from Chicago, if you haven't noticed, but
I never thought I could live here. I just always admired the buildings from afar and thought what a glamorous place to be, and he was the one who actually helped me realize I could live here. So that was kind of an amazing moment to understand that. So
he showed you how unglamorous.
Yes, absolutely. That is 100% true.
Yeah.
We lovingly refer to it as our vertical trailer park.
Whatever.
Sometimes. Trying to change that.
So most of you, I think you're all like architecture adjacent, but we'll just give you a couple of things before we go into the units. So we are in what is called Marina City. So Marina City is not just the two towers. There's the residential portion, but Marina City, it's all that it's in the block here. So the two residential towers, what it was the theater, now the House of Blues, the hotel that used to be originally the office building where Bertrand Goldberg worked. Then underneath we have the commercial property, and underneath that we have the marina level. So that is all considered Marina City. Originally it was all under one management. In 1977 it turned into condos, and that ownership split. So the residential portion goes on one side, all the commercial goes on another side. So just to say that there were a lot of changes since the opening of the building. Smith and Wollensky was now here. There was an ice skating rink and other things that are common areas that we don't have as residents control of that. We also don't control the parking, the first 19 floors that are also managed by another company. So Marina City was designed by architect Bertrand Goldberg, who was from Chicago. You might have seen other residential projects, Prentice Hospital that was demolished recently. But this was a building, he was commissioned to design a building for the janitors union. They asked him to do a building that would be their offices. And Bertrand Goldberg really believed in the power of the city and really believed in the cultural and economic vitality of the city. This is a moment also where everybody was going to the suburbs, everybody was moving outside, so he really wanted to claim the city. He also was very interested in the idea of the river. I mean, there are a lot of social things. So he was one that actually convinced the client to not only build an office, but also build a place where the workers could live in. He was paid by the maintenance union plus three other unions. That's how it was done. The first tower, which is this one, this is what we call the West Tower. That's the East Tower. The West Tower was finished in 1962. That's when the first residents moved in. The second one, people moved in 1963. The office building was completed in 1965, and then the theater in 1967. So also just to give you a little bit of sense, like this, where we're here is River North. So it's an area that was all kind of like warehouses, brick buildings, 3, 4, 5 stories. There was nothing really to live in here if you wanted to live. So this was called the city within a city, but also just because there was a need to provide all the services if you wanted people to live in these buildings. So we have a bowling alley, there is a supermarket, there's all sorts of services. But so part was because it was very advanced, but part is like the need to have to provide that in the River North, you didn't have that at that time. Now it has changed a lot. You have a lot of residential buildings within this area. There is a lot of supermarkets and any other services. So the tower, so this was the tallest reinforced concrete building in the world when it opened. It was the tallest residential building in the world. It's kind of like a combination of architecture and engineering. Everything comes together the same way, and also like a social way of thinking about the city and thinking about community. So it's not something that was at the expense of another, like really here, everything came together. As you see, the first 19 floors are the parking structures. It's valet parking. As you can see, all the cars are all facing backwards, so there is no way to kind of like get up there except for that manned lift that you see every so often, someone who just kind of like goes up, retrieves the car, brings it down. Not up to code, but it's amazing. If you see The Hunter, which is the last movie that Steve McQueen ever did, there is a famous chase that goes around the ramp and then it just goes into the river. So that's the first 19 floors. The 20th floor is the common space. So we have the laundry room, we have the gym, we have storage. That happens in both towers. And then 21 to 60, that's where you have all the apartment buildings. There are only 3 typologies of buildings. There are 900 units, or 896 originally. You have efficiency units, which is one pie shape. There is the 1 bedroom, which is 1.5, and then the 2 bedrooms, which is 2.5. Most of the units that you will see in this building are 1 bedroom. So 60% of the building is 1 bedroom, a little bit over 30% is studio, and then 64 out of the 900 are originally 2 bedrooms. Because of the structure, and I can explain pretty easy here, it's like you have the central core here, and then you have the beams with this support that go into this column, that in the balconies, then it will continue under the balcony and it will go into the other level. So none of the walls in the units are structural. So some people have combined the units. You can combine in a horizontal level, you can now combine vertically. But this structure that we see here revealed is exactly the same structure that you see in the units. It's exactly the same structure all across the building. On the top floor, what it's the rooftop, it was always called the observatory deck. So it was always intended for be a public space for the community. It's open for residents until midnight. On Wednesdays, we have movie night. You can go up there, you can do, bring your own chair, bring your own drinks, organize whatever you want. So it's a great space. And again, thinking about these things is like someone who 60 years ago was thinking about the rooftop rather than putting mechanical things, it was a social space. Or like being right by the river. And now the river walk is built here, but then this is something about claiming the river when it wasn't such an asset for the city. So a lot of people really look at this building as a formal exercise, but in reality, there are many more things. It's much more interesting than just that it's a round building. So what we're gonna do is, because we're a large group, we're gonna split the group into 2. One group is gonna go first to the rooftop, and you're gonna be able to have 360 views of from the rooftop, and then the rest of the group will come with me to see one of the 2 bedroom units, and then we'll just basically swap it, and then we'll do that, okay? So you have 5 elevators, 2 that are express, which is the ones that we took, so they go 40 to 60. The other ones that go from 20 to 40. You have the freight elevator, so that way we have 5. We also have 2 stairs and the trash chute. So then in the even floors, you have the opening on one side, and in the odd floors, you have it on the other side. So that way there is not a weak point in the structure of the building. From this core, which the historic photos are amazing because you can see that they build this core first and then all the floors, and it's just incredible. From here is where you have the beams that we saw downstairs, and then that's the beam that will turn into the column that will turn outside. But everything is concentrated here. So then we have a corridor that is very dimly lit. The idea is that you enter from a fairly dark place, and then because you have glass to, floor to ceiling glass windows, the idea is that once you enter in your unit, you are kind of like, everything is bright, you see the city, so it's intentional that it is like that. These corridors, they are not original. When they turned into condos in '77, they made them different. Now they are going through another process of trying to redo it. But this is from when it was 1977. So this is an original 2 bedrooms, which is 2.5 pie shape. So what it is in the organization of the unit is always the narrow part is where you have the closets. So you have the walk-in closets. In this case, we also have the water heater and all that stuff. In the intermediate spaces, you always have the bathroom and the kitchen, and the wider parts are always the living room and the bedroom. So even though that it's this pie shape, it actually it's the biggest proportion is the living areas. It's a much wider thing. It's now very complicated to lay out furniture here. It's now very strange. It's fine. It's easy. But then the only difference from the original 2 bedroom, which is it had been removed from before we moved here, is that the wall was a galley kitchen. So the kitchen here. So there was a wall here that would close it. What's also unique about this building is the exhaust from the kitchen and the bathroom goes through the structural beam. So there's only one point that you can connect to that beam because the exhaust is inside the concrete. So both bathrooms and kitchen, they'll just go through that. The layout is like you have the kitchen, that area for the dining. You have on the right-hand side would be where it's the main bedroom, the main bathroom. The main bedroom has a full balcony, half that you see from the dining table, the dining room, and then the other half is basically where you access. And then on the other side is the second bedroom. We have it as an office or guest bedroom. If you have a one bedroom, that's exactly the size that you would have as a bedroom. And then you basically planned, we are in floor 56 out of 60. Floors from 21 to 52, they have 12 units because they are all studios and one bedrooms. 52 to 60, there are only 2 bedrooms and one bedroom. So we have, in this floor, we only have 8 residents. It's like 4 2-bedroom, 4 2 1-bedroom. When you have 1 bedrooms together and you have half a pie, basically there is a black divider that you will see on that side, and then there is just a mirror layout, and then you'll finish in the proper sequence. So then you can just decide if you have a 2-bedroom or a 1-bedroom next to it. So this building now, it's a landmark. So it's a landmark from the facade all the way to the outside. So we cannot touch the glass. There's the original mullions, the original, in some cases, windows. Some of the windows are replaced, but they are replaced by the building. And then we have 2 layers, but some of the other ones were like single pane, but it's all original. The other thing is this building is all electric. So it was all General Electric. So that baseboard is what heats the unit. And then you have the PTAC unit above the door where you actually have extra heat if you need it, or it becomes the AC. So it was also very advanced in terms of the idea of General Electric. Originally, the kitchen was a metallic kitchen, like a metal kitchen, similar to 800, 860, 880, and some of that period. We didn't have that when we moved into the building, so we renovated the whole unit and the kitchen. Yeah. Well, there was a famous cover from National Geographic where every balcony had white lights. Again, because the management of the whole complex was run by one company, I think they could control that more. There's still that idea of having lights, and then some people have lights. I think I have a book where it has that. So, but there's that idea of having like lights at the top of the railing. And there was a cover, for National Geographic where they did that. What's nice about the balcony is like the floor to ceiling is now very high, and because it's so deep, it feels like you're in a room rather than hanging in the city. Like you are in another building where you feel like very exposed. Like here it's actually like another room. So people who have a studio, they really set it up as another room, and you spend a lot of time in the balcony. Well, the ones from Genie Gang, definitely not. The glass one that we have kind of like half in the center of the view wasn't here. Yeah. So you have Prudential 1 and Prudential 2. So that back is Prudential 1, and then the next one to the left is Prudential 2. Yeah, so that's the back of that. They have engineering in-house. Kornacker, who did the 860 and 80, work in these buildings. I believe he worked in the office building. And then there was another structural engineering firm who worked here. But they did have a lot of people who had engineering in-house. So he was very interested in this idea of engineering and architecture in the same building. So a lot of this is just kind of like pure engineering that then turned into the building. So this is what it's interesting, is that it's not like it's a building that is dressed as a curve and like those two things are separate. It actually like the structure, the architecture, it's all made together and it all works together. So when you see renovations, sometimes when people want to go against that, it just don't work because it's such a strong presence. So it's like, it doesn't work. So, but it's a great building. We did a project where we documented 40 residents and we had a show at the Art Institute, and it was great because people with different tastes, people with different means, who were aware of the idea of Bertrand Goldberg, but they live very different. Like they all call this place home, and they not only talk about their unit, they talk about the building itself. So it was kind of interesting to document that. And then you'll see that people move from one unit to another one. So you might enter into a one bedroom that is looking at a place, you want to look at another one, so people swap. So once they enter here, they stay here.
That's interesting.
So,
How many other buildings in Chicago are there like that? There's the 880.
Probably 880, 860. What we've seen is because this is so centrally located, there are also a lot of flight attendants that go to the airports, and then that's when they start their work. So there's a different community. Obviously, the difference also having balconies versus 860, 880. You're in the center of the city too, so it's a whole different thing. But yeah, I think 860, 880 would be another one that is comparable in terms of the ethos or like the imaginary aspect. It's actually a pretty quiet, in a way, like, because there are no public spaces outside. It's just the corridor, really, like you go into your unit and then the most public is the balcony. And because of the shape, you're never really onto your neighbor in a way. Like you always have your own space. So it's a social in certain way, but also like a lot of the public space is put into the balconies. If you go to River City, which is also a Bertrand Goldberg, it's a different thing. All the common area is that street in between. So they're just, he tested different ideas. So but let's do the flippy.
Do you mind if I stay here? To living here and
We used to have our mailboxes, actually, our mailboxes used to be under the escalators, and so we used to have an amazing river view when getting the mail, and they've recently given that over to the restaurants. So now our mailboxes are in the sad beige, sad beige glass enclosure, but we do have, a package room, management office, sales office, rental office, our grocery store and deli, which is nice to have. The boat rental dealer elevators, and half are going to go up the freight. So we can go ahead and head out to the roof, and really I'll have maybe one thing.
Oh my god. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
We see everything that's a big blank wall as a canvas, right? So he had done, we had invited Luftwerk, who were primarily focused on projection at the time as projection artists, and they were doing projection mapping on buildings to do a projection mapping on the core. And so they did that, and we had a great party. And like I said, the rooftop's kind of a blank slate, and you can kind of do whatever you want. So we had a really cool kind of party up here where they did some really neat projection mapping on the core. And a couple neat things came out of that. One, I think, is that now on a much more low-key way, they show movies on the core every Wednesday night during good weather. So people come up here, put out chairs, eat popcorn, drink beer, and watch cool movies. And they have really good movies. It's pretty amazing. I don't know how they're getting them. I don't ask questions, but they have really good movies that they show. So that's a pretty neat outcome of that. I think they saw how fun that was, and it took a little bit, but they got that effort going. The other fun thing was Eker has this way of connecting with people that I don't always understand how he manages to do it, but he invited the guys from Wilco to that party because why not, right? They're famous for their connection to the Wilco Towers, and I think they couldn't make it, but they were thankful for the thoughtfulness of being invited. Maybe one of them actually did come, but as sort of a result, they stayed in touch, and they ended up coming or reaching back out and asking if they could film a part of one of their videos here from their last album. And so there's this great little scene. It lasts 20 seconds max, but where they kind of run into and hide in not our current unit, but our last unit, where he kind of runs and hides out on our balcony. And there's a camera somewhere really far away, and they do this incredible zoom out of him hiding, and they zoom out to get the full towers, and it goes out to the Yankee Hotel Foxtrot cover, more or less. So it's kind of I don't know, I feel it's always this roof has done little inspirational things that have been fun. So we can go back over in the shade, and one thing I'll point out while we're over there, Eker mentioned this was the tallest concrete building. It was the tallest residential tower. It was the tallest structure in Chicago for 5 years until the Hancock building took over that title, which is kind of amazing, right? Like, I don't think people think like, oh, before the Hancock, Marina City was the tallest structure in Chicago, but it was. And another thing that was interesting is I think everybody thinks of Marina City in its current iconic shape as is, but if you look here, there's these massive kind of steel plates and bolts on the side, and there's 3 of them here. There were huge communication towers that were on the building right after the building opened. So I think from 1964 until, I don't know exactly when they came down, but they were, I think, approximately 280 feet tall. And I think 19 different stations broadcast from the towers that were on here, including what is now Channel 7 and what is now Fox 32. But a lot of stations, radio and television, broadcast from the towers on this building. So pretty interesting, kind of a forgotten moment. And if you look at old photos of it, it's astounding how massively tall those broadcast antenna were for the size of the tower that this is. It's, akin to what's on top of the Hancock now. So.
And like kind of skyline shape, like super space agey.
Yeah, they were like they had lights on them. They were red, and they would indicate like changes in the weather.
Oh. Yeah.
So I don't know if it did it through flashing or like how tall they were. I don't think they changed color, but they also gave indication to coming changes in the weather. So pretty interesting for the time and for what we remember of the building. Yeah. So. All right. Okay, guys.